Let's continue here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. We're joined by a gentleman, a legend, as a matter of fact, one of the members of the legendary Cypress Hill. You know, they've got so many great hits, so many great albums. As a matter of fact, 9 albums to date, have a 10th album coming out. One of the songs in doing the research I've forgotten about, which I think was their first song, was Funky Feel One, which was so dope. I got this one. This is the original album, Insane in the Membrane, right? This is the original one that came out, not that reissue stuff. I'm all about collecting records. You know what I mean? Sen Dog is the one and only. Sen Dog joins us here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. What's good, man?
Everything's good, brother. You know, catching me at home, you know, just maxing and relaxing, watching the kids play some catch and whatnot, you know, enjoying the downtime, as it were. You got to make the best out of every situation. You know, but I'm good, bro. I'm glad. Glad you are too, brother.
Yeah, doing really good. So you were in the baseball. Your kids are playing baseball.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm Cuban, brother. So we have no choice. We have to love baseball. So.
Are you a good baseball player?
Yeah, man. Actually, I did. I did play a lot of baseball growing up. Me and my brother Mello, man, we were a 1-2 combo. He pitched. I was the catcher. And, you know, we were striking fools out every game, you know what I mean? And for a minute, we thought, you know, we might have a career in baseball. That's until we met this thing called hip hop. And that changed all of that around, you know?
Man, that thing called hip hop is something serious. And we're going to talk about that. So, I mean, you're a Dodgers fan, right?
Correct. Yeah. Heck yeah.
What about the Angels? Like, what about the Angels?
You know, the Angels are like, how can I say, like a side girl?
You represent LA all the time, though, right?
Yeah, man. You know, they're cool and everything, except for their actual title, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of California of Newport Beach. That one. I like some of their players, but I've always been an LA guy. I grew up in LA, and that's been my team. You know, when the Angels do well, you know, I'm right there rooting for them to go as far as they could. You know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you had to feel good last year with the Dodgers winning that elusive World Series championship.
Yeah, for real. It did. You know, it was a complicated year all the way around, but, you know, they won it. They picked up the chip, you know, and they played some baseball, you know, Bellinger and Mookie Betts and Jock Peterson. I mean, the outfield was just dumb. You're like, you can't even mess with that outfield on so many levels. You know what I mean? And they were just they do what they had to do. They're stealing bases. They were making defensive plays. And I was watching the progression of that, and something hit me along the way. And I said to myself, I think these guys got a chance based on how they're playing baseball. You know what I mean? So definitely, yeah, I definitely was happy to see that, you know, then bring home a championship to LA. And Tommy Lasorda was still alive at the time. So I'm sure you got a chance to see that before he went to meet the big Dodger in the sky. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no question about that. Interesting. So what's the vibe like? It's been a year since in excess of now a year since Kobe Bryant's passing. What is still the vibe like there in LA?
Man, you know, it's not as heavy and as somber as it once was. When it was fresh and it just happened, you know, people, grown men could not, hold back their tears, and all that. You know, it's still a heavy thing for all of us in Los Angeles, to deal with. I think for everybody around the world, but more so for us in LA, because it felt like you lost your little brother or something like that. You know what I mean? That's the only way I could describe it. And I think that every time that the Lakers take the court and play basketball, in the back of your head, you're going to be seeing Kobe streaking across that floor, slam dunking the ball, and those memories, those great memories that he gave us. And I don't think that will ever come a time when the likes of Kobe Bryant will be forgotten by anyone in LA. I think his the legendary stuff that he pulled off will pass on from generation to generation, and people that saw him play, it'll be like you were there when Babe Ruth hit, 600 or 700 home runs, and you were in the audience. That's the way I look at it. I was there the day Kobe scored 81 points, and you could just tell your grandkids about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And just an incredible person. I had the honor of meeting him one day for about 5 or 7 minutes, but, he gave me props, and I thanked him for making us, helping LA become champions again. And I kind of actually felt like I was in the midst of royalty by looking at the way he kept himself and everything. And I'm like, man, this dude looks like he's like from some kind of royal family or something. You know what I mean? But the man had class. And that's something that everybody in LA remembers, when we talk about great champions and, Magic Johnson and all that, you're going to remember, the man Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of people, and we're going to talk more about that. A lot of people are in the midst of royalty when they're in your presence and in Cypress Hill's presence. And we're going to talk more about that. Last thought, as unbiased as you can be, will the Lakers repeat as champions?
It doesn't look like it right now. I mean, just based on on injuries and what kind of product they're putting out there on the court. I think last year was a better year, as far as like injuries, and I think the nucleus of the team. I think a couple of guys, had got different deals after the championship. And I think that nucleus, we could have held that together. Just one more year would have been better for everybody around. But, there's guys that took off back east and whatnot, and guys that went to different teams. And I think it's hard to duplicate what we did last year as a group, to not get rid of me and bring in Sam and Sam fill in and do what I did. It's kind of a hard deal, even though I understand LeBron, Davis, and all those guys, but I don't think so. I don't think this year's going to be their year. I'm looking to see someone else win the championship this year.
That the voice of the incredible Sindog of the incredible Cypress Hill, who joins us here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. So in August, it will have been 30 years since the release of your self-entitled album, Cypress Hill, which was absolutely incredible. Did you think 30 years ago that you all would have had the success that you've had and still be doing this?
No, not at all. I not at all, man. I thought for sure that, we'd be done by now. I'd have moved back to doing something else in music, or, something else, just anything but music. You have to understand that when we came out back in the early 90s, there was no thing such as longevity. You know what I mean? No one had turned 20 years old in hip hop or anything like that. So you definitely saw it as something that we're going to do while we're young, and hopefully make a little bit of money at it, and then be able to move on to the next part of life. You know what I mean? And, but here we are, 30 years later, we still demand an audience and whatnot, and people still come and, and party out with us when we go live and all that stuff. So it's all been a major blessing, but, to say like, if you would have told me back then that you guys are going to do at least 30 years, I'd have been like, man, this dude, he must be on something. Cause he's, I don't think any of us would believe it. But the more we went on, and we went through a lot of highs and we went through a lot of lows as well. It wasn't like all gravy all the time. You know what I mean? I remember, specifically a time when the people didn't even know if Cypress Hill was together anymore. That's how far off we had gone, and we were all doing our own things and not really taking care of the mothership. You know what I mean? But we raised that awareness. We brought it back up, and the world knows that Cypress has been back, and just for me to be able to take care of my family and take care of my mom and all that, my parents, and be able to, raise families behind a hip hop band is pretty incredible, and I think about it now, because first of all, it's got to take some kind of maturity to achieve that level. You just can't be the same young hothead that you were, 30 years ago. Eventually that has to fade out, and you have to become some kind of a respected businessman, because without respect in this industry, you're nothing.
No,
Yeah. And you have, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You have to learn how to become that businessman, and, and be on time for that meeting and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that go into play with it. We've done every single thing that we did to get to stay in the industry. When we started, we did whatever we could to get noticed. And once we got noticed, we did everything we could to get signed. And once we got signed, we did everything we could to get up there and get seen and be heard. And that still seems to be the mission in life, you know?
Yeah. And
we're still at it.
Yeah, you are. You guys, I mean, you guys have done things that nobody really has done. You brought up an interesting point. I want to further expound on that, because sometimes you have groups that you've gone on and done your own thing. All the guys have gone on and done their own thing, and sometimes it doesn't always work where you come back to what you alluded to, as the mothership. Can you speak to that? Because at the end of the day, no matter what else you guys have done from a solo standpoint, you have always come back to Cypress Hill. 9 albums in and a 10th on the way.
Yeah, well, with me being Send Dog, I'm gonna get so far in life. You know what I mean? With me being Send Dog from Cypress Hill, that opens up a lot of other extra doors. And having that avenue, having that vehicle, if you will, of a Cypress Hill, that allows us the luxury of going out there and doing our own thing when we want to. Not everything that I record is going to fit a Cypress Hill format, and vice versa for the other guys. You know what I mean? So I think when I first stepped off for the band back in the mid 90s, and I didn't mean to, but I started fronting like a punk band, kind of like a punk metal band. And when I came back to Cypress Hill, they were like, man, he's a different dude, man. Whoever he's been jamming with has been good for him. You know what I mean? So it became like an open door policy. Like, you could go do your own thing or jam with who you want to jam with. But, you always got to come back to Cypress. And every time we do that, I think there's new energies involved, and there's new musical concepts and theories and whatnot, and we discuss things out more. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, when I was over there, I tried this thing with so-and-so and so-and-so. Maybe we tried this and that here, blah, blah, blah. So it opens up the doors to a lot of opportunities for an even bigger Cypress Hill, because now we're talking about experienced musicians all coming together. Before it was just, okay, you guys do your rap parts. You guys can leave now. You know what I mean? Now we're talking about, we know what we want to hear. We know what we like to hear. And, I could produce you a record like anybody else can produce you a record. I just rather be a front man,
Yeah, no question about it. The incredible Send Dog of the incredible Cypress Hill joins us here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. What's interesting, I ask artists this all the time, particularly ones that I think, artists, groups, etc., that I think should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I think about Cypress Hill, and I think about when you guys first came out. I think about your longevity. I think about the 20+ million albums you sold. I think about the genres of music you've crossed over to: hip hop, reggae, rock, heavy metal, etc. Is that something? I mean, it's not the end all be all, but is that something that I don't want to say bothers you, but I mean, like, I feel like Cypress Hill by this time should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Man, I thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, man. I really do. And it's not something that I go about thinking about every day. I really don't. It took one of my favorite bands, Kiss. It took them 40 years to get accepted. So, if we're judging it based on something like that, then, who knows what could happen. I know that we have, we have a lot of history, we have a lot of sales and all that stuff. And it's all about when, it's your turn, and it's not when it's not. And I kind of look at it when, the Hollywood Walk of Fame approached us, and that kind of like was very cool and everything. We weren't expecting it, which made it even better. So it doesn't bother me in a sense of like, we're not in the Hall of Fame, oh, woe is me. You know what I mean? The day, if it were to happen, I'd be the happiest dude on earth, but until then, it ain't going to disrupt my groove or nothing like that. I know there's a bunch of musicians, older heads than me that have put work in longer than me that still haven't seen that stage. So, you know what I mean? I'm here, I'm good. We're still doing Cypress, and And if it comes, it comes. And if it don't, we're just going to keep on trucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think it's, and that's a great attitude to have, no question about it. Your versatility. Let me get back to the versatility, because I mean, you guys have been so versatile to the point, I forget which album it was. You had a double CD. One was hip hop, the other was heavy metal. I mean, like, that's my point. Like, you're the essence of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like, who does that? You know what I mean? Like, that type of thing. That aside, speak to that, the longevity, but also the different genres of music that you all have produced.
Yeah, well, that goes the different, genres, the genre skipping, as I like to call it. I think that just goes back to like us as kids and young children or whatever, and all of us in our three different lives, me, Muggs, and Be Real, we all came from a musical family in one way or another, and music was always around me. My dad never turned the radio off. It seemed like he always had something going. And as a kid, I remember liking, Parliament Funkadelic, like, a lot. But at the same time, I liked Kiss a lot. And I liked, Bob Marley a lot, And, at the same time, I used to listen to Celia Cruz and Tito Puente and all kind of stuff. So I was never scared of a style of music. I was always open to listen to anything and everything. And when we opened up the Cypress Hill to different styles of music, I thought that was the best thing that we could have done ever in our careers, because, I mean, without that, we wouldn't have had a rock superstar. We wouldn't have had some certain material that we came up with. And you have to be willing to take on that challenge. And I've noticed that a lot of my favorite artists, and I'm talking a lot of Hall of Famers, guys like Prince would change his musical style almost every album and expect you as an artist to keep up with him. You know what I mean? So he was trying to get you to please him, not him please you. You know what I mean? So I kind of saw that as like, that's very challenging. And I love the way that, people could go out of their own genre and bring their genre into another genre, and it still sound like that artist, and therein was the challenge of how do we go and make a Spanish album, not being predominantly Spanish speakers, because we're Latino kids and everything, but we grew up in our families talking Spanglish, you know what I mean? And mostly English, but a little bit of Spanglish or whatever. And so you can't be scared of that. You have to just go for it and see what happens. And what happened was the South American public really responded well to that record. And you have to just go out there and do things and try things and be creative with other people that are in the same industry as you are. They just do it differently. You know what I mean? And I think that I think that sets us apart. And that brings me, every year we do this thing called Dime Bash in Southern California. And it's in honor of Dimebag Darrell from Pantera. And I get to jam with a lot of my favorite heavy metal bands, of today, and I go out there and I jam. And I don't think that all those opportunities would not have been brought to me if I didn't show beforehand that I was open to other genres and other, ways of delivering, vocals, and whatnot. So I definitely think that definitely helped with the longevity. I think people got a real charge out of that, because you never know what Cypress Hill's going to do next. We want to keep people on their feet like that,
Yes, and you bring up an interesting point. Sin Dog of Cypress Hill joins us here on the program. So the Cypress Hill album supposed to be out, this year at some point. What can we expect?
No, actually, we're going to go early next year with it.
Okay.
And I think we're going to release maybe another song, maybe 2 more songs beforehand, and then go ahead and dump the record out next year. And this one, I think it's like, this is grown folks rap. You know what I mean? This ain't no little kid rap. You know what I mean? We're not doing that here. You know what I mean? This is true hip hop. You know what I mean? We've earned our stripes. We've paid our dues over and over again. And, we know what we're talking about as men. You know what I'm saying? And we want to deliver that. You know what I'm saying? So this record here, I think, has one of the one of the purest messages as an overall album. I think the delivery and the messages that we put into our music is just overwhelmingly, that's just the right thing to do, the right way to live type of deal. You know what I mean? Yeah, we still get, we're still getting stoned on our, on our records and in real life and all that. We haven't switched over to angels. We're just, we're mature men, man. We know what we're doing.
Yeah. So what's going on with what SX10 and Power Flow? Those are your groups. What's happening with them currently?
Yeah, well, Power Flow just finished it. I just got through doing vocals for the second album, and we're in the process of doing drums right now. As I'm talking to you, they're in the studio right now recording. So, and then we go into mastering, and we want to get that record out, in the fall. So that's all done. I'm kind of hyped up about it because I think I've done some really good work on there, and then we're on a little label called Damage Plan out of Toronto, Canada. So that's what's up with that. And then SX10, I'm still friends with the guys. You know what I mean? We never officially broke up. We just kind of always stopped doing it and got into our own things, But I'm still friends with them. I still talk to them. But we haven't played together in quite some time. And that's where I'll leave that at.
Yeah. Now are you in the cannabis business? How's that business?
Well, that business is a $7 billion a year industry.
Correct.
Let's get it right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started up a little company called Hill House, right? And we do the actual cannabis, the flower, and pre-rolls and things of that nature. Some concentrates and whatnot. And it's not like what B Real has going on with Dr. Green Thumb, but it's a good start, And so we're in it. We're just trying to build on that and try to make that bigger and bigger and try to see when we can move it from state to state. Following, staying fully compliant with everything that they, want you to regulate to,
Yeah. Well, again, the one and only Sin Dog of Cypress Hill joins us here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. You heard him say the Cypress Hill album will be out next year, but a couple more singles this year, or a couple of singles this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what can we expect from those singles? Are there going to be, you guys just do the whole gamut. So is it going to be, obviously there's a lot of social consciousness going on right now. What can we expect maybe from the new music to be released at some point this year?
Yeah, I think it's more on some straight, on some straight hip hop. It's not like there's a lot of different styles of hip hop now, but I think that my era, of that 90s era was the best era. And I think that the way that we represented was the way it should be represented. And not that we're trying to bring it back or anything like that, because that was back then, because, now we're just trying to keep an edge on us, you know what I mean? And stay vocal and stay, talking about things that matter, without giving up too much. We have one song out already called Champion Sound. I don't know if you heard it, but it's pretty dope. And we did a deal with Major League Baseball for that one.
Nice.
I think on the rest of the record, it's just more of a positivity, man. Let's get back to positivity. Let's get back to, people being one people. There's a lot of division in today's society. You know what I mean? And I know not everybody's down with that. So, we want to stay positive minded. We don't want to see divided places. You see, we want to see, harmonic places, that kind of thing. And we have to deliver those kind of messages and come together on the sound of it all. First of all, is I think it's modern day, grown folks hip hop,
Right. And I'm here for it. Sin Dog of Cypress Hill joins us here on Box to Row with the Radio Boss. Got a lot going on. Sin Dog, really appreciate you doing this. Continued success in all you do.
Right on, brother. Thank you, man.